Hello everyone, I'm Brian Portodaso Dagoplo. For today's video, I will going to discuss the limits of applicability of Western concepts, values, and methods in the social sciences to the concrete realities of Asian societies. So as I continue, I am going to discuss the economics and sociology. So first, we will tackle about economics. The discipline of economics gives many illustration of the limits of Western concepts, values, and methods. The most evident at the moment is the emergence of new branches of study, such as development economics and of a more socio-psychological approach to the study of economic system than Keynesian economics allowed at an earlier period. Thus, even in the West, there is a growing recognition that if economic growth is to occur, a country's cultural pattern must be such as to produce high need achievement directed towards economic activity and especially towards innovation and also to produce cluster of flowers once innovations are made. In fact, to achieve substantial economic development, it is suggested that the number of individuals with the entrepreneurial motivational complex and particularly with high achievement drives will have to be significantly increased. Again, many Western economists have been laboring under the assumption of conventional analysis that the missing elements in developing societies are modern technical knowledge, capital, specially trained manpower, and a sound plan for using capital, manpower, and technical knowledge. And once these elements were made available, they assume progress will automatically ensure. The international economic policy of the Western nation have therefore generally been geared towards providing these missing elements, with perhaps the strongest bias being in the formation of capital as the principal agent of development. The view is still widespread that if Asian countries can only obtain through their own efforts or through foreign assistance sufficient amount of capital, they would be able to finish the job of development. The truth is that investment, whether public or private, is subject to the risks, uncertainties, and eccentricities of poor public administration. Since development is a process, it is subject at every stage to how effectively the government can execute the plans. Moreover, it is now clear that traditional marginal analysis, however useful it may be as a basis for the understanding of advanced economies, can be very misleading for undeveloped ones when such factors as population growth and technological progress are made in the integral part of analysis instead of being left out altogether. As in traditional equilibrium theory, our analysis can lead to policy conclusion exactly the reverse of what orthodox equilibrium theory might suggest. So this is illustrated in the Philippine society. For this society may be likened to a social pyramid with an acute apex and a very broad base. At the apex is a very small segment of society. The rich and the very rich at the base are the broad masses of those who are poor and poor. The constellation of power in our society has traditionally consisted of Hacendero Politico class at the apex of social pyramid which held sway over the lives of human beings. More recently, a new industrial class has appeared to increase their numerically few but historically powerful ranks. The elite class enjoy the benefits of modern technology and the affluence that it makes possible, while the vast mass of the population lives close to the subsistence level. There is thus a distressing and a ever widening gap in the access to goods and services. It is clear, therefore, that to be relevant to the realities of Asian situation, economic development should not be reckoned only in terms of annual rates of economic growth or of doubling national incomes in a decade, it should be vitally concerned with promoting economic justice in spreading more widely the benefits of economic progress and in continuously opening up new opportunities to an ever widening circle of entrepreneurs and investors in the developing countries. In short, the achievement of economic democracy has to be primordial goal alongside the acceleration of growth process. So next is we will tackling about the sociology. The sociology in the realm of rural sociology, many practical limits to Western social research concepts and methods have been actually discovered in the Philippines. So first methods and techniques. To begin with, planning a research project on the Western pattern is often not warranted by the amount and quality of available resources. There is, for instance, the problem of shortage of local professional researchers, compounded by the attitude which rural folks have for those social researchers and the ways it is rural folks are used to extension workers, welfare agency, volunteers, missionaries, and the like. On the other hand, Philippine researchers and interviewers have been looked upon the philanthropists as some sort of Rockefellers or Ford Foundation representatives ready to give out material aid. The establishment of concepts of definition has not been easy. Social research is built around a framework which requires certain concepts such as household, family, literacy, religion, cooperation, and the like, but a research group led by Professor Gloria de Feliciano of the University of the Philippines has recently concluded that in diagnostic studies wherein these concepts need to be stated in more refined or precise terms, and adaptation is necessary to avoid getting inaccurate data. So next is role of women, role of education. In another report, Professor Julia T. Castillo, a pioneer rural research scholar in the Philippines, has found it necessary to re-examine the role of women in the development scheme. Her findings showed such strong female influence in family farm decision making. For purposes of development work, it would be more fruitful to classify the Filipino woman in the rural scene as an active initiator, legitimizer, and decision maker in her own right rather than just a person who plays a more supportive role to her husband, her father, or her barrio. So a closer examination of the rural education has likewise been suggested because while it is a potent instrument for effecting change in the agricultural production, education acquires a different dimension when it rules out a mud in educated hands. So next is raw materials from research in action programs. The traditional social research methods which has come down to us from the West calls for empirical evidence to support existing ideas. Our experience shows that rural research theory in the Philippines is in fact being enriched by various experiences in research and action programs. The findings of Professor Julia T. Castillo show that the researcher in an action setting has a unique advantage in obtaining substantive and methodological insights, while actually participating in real life events which are part of the process of bringing out change. At times she says that the problem which defies any design except the kind which involves a faithful description of down to earth happenings, is the most fertile source of insights. Example of to support this view have been cited in the Philippines. Many extension workers had claimed that most of the researchers done are not practical and economically feasible under the village condition. Knowing one's audience. As we have said, affecting directly social change, Western social scientists have focused their attention on knowing one's audience. As we have said, in affecting directed social change, Western social scientists have focused their attention on knowing one's audience, even in the voluminous literature on diffusion studies in the United States. Rarely have investigators address themselves to the nature of the innovation and the character of the careers of change among the advocates of change. There is an unchallenged assumption that the change being introduced is good, that the change agent is effective, and that therefore is the farmer who refuses to accept the innovation is irrational. To be sure, the audience should be known. Who is the Asian farmer, for instance, whose ways are sought to be changed? This is an extremely important question. Again, one should know his audience in order to evaluate his data. It has been found that the reliability of farmers' responses depends upon the respondents' image of the researchers or interviewer and their expectations from the project. Um, Next is the rule of the change agent. Be that as it may, to understand the subsistence farmer's response or lack of response to the innovation sought to be introduced, the innovation itself must be proved and the role of the change agent fully studied. And the later point on the findings is that oftentimes a change agency is a rigid latter point and rigid as the farmers it seeks to change. A former consultant has been quoted as the farmer as saying that the problems of the development exist just as much in the organization change with the instituting change schemes as they do in the populace they are trying to change. Two other findings have come out the Philippines experiments. One is that a change agent can hardly expect to be effective unless the rule is accepted by his clientele. Rapport with the villagers therefore becomes a key factor. The other is that the agent of change in the Philippines should have versatility unmatched by his counterpart in the West. The enormity and diversity of problem situation he comes to grips with require an interdisciplinary thinking, especially when he is the only social scientist within a radius of many kilometers. He should not be just a rural sociologist or an agricultural economist, but a social scientist with expert preparation in his own discipline. He needs sophistication in social theory, mastery or of research methodology, adequate comprehension and bureaucratic and political behavior, and intensive exposure to the world of village action administration and policy. So the last one is the towards a theory for developing Asian nation. It is of the highest priority that the teachers and practitioners in the social sciences in Asia emancipate themselves from the value bias of Western concepts and postulates of reasoning. There is need for escaping universalizing that characterizes much of the social sciences as they have developed in Western academic circles. Asian social sciences as they have developed in Western academic as they have developed in Western academic circles. Asian social scientists should undergo a truly creative engagement with their own culture and society, making use in the process of frameworks that provide standards of relevance to the experiences and aspiration of their own people. So, with a commitment to intellectual efforts with a decidedly Asian value base, more genuine works of scholarships in the social sciences should come out of the academic world with the growing data from field works and social sciences, which enable us to verify the reference of concepts in our respective countries. We may usefully embark on the ambitious project of the setting up jury for the developing Asian nation, and the process hopefully understand ourselves. So that would be all, and thank you.